everyone, I'm Shakyra Mabone.
And I'm Jack Williams.
And welcome to Reeling In, the podcast where we take a moment to reel in the best and worst film moments while keeping our commentary 100% real.
And today we're talking about horror films and Alien. So grab your popcorn and let's reel it in. Today we have Daniel.
Hello.
Hi, Daniel. Welcome to Reeling In. Thank you for agreeing to be on this podcast with us.
Yeah, thanks for being here.
Of course. Oh, this is awesome. It's my pleasure.
So, Daniel, let's just get right into it. When you think of horror, what are your go-tos? What are your favorites? Let's hear it.
Right now, I always try to find something new. I'm going on Letterboxd. I'm seeing what people are talking about. I love Dead Meat. I don't know if you guys have heard of them. They're Michigan-based. They have their own podcast as well. They do these videos called The Kill Count. I don't know if you guys see those popping up on YouTube.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, but they talk about different things. They try to cover everything, and I try to watch a lot of different things. I know last year I watched it felt like 3 hours. It was a Canadian horror movie of a violent nature, where you just watch. It's like Friday the 13th Part 2, except it's from the perspective of the killer, and you're almost looking at his back like the whole movie. I don't know if you guys have seen Elephant.
I think I've heard of that. Yeah.
Yeah, very similar.
You look from the perspective of the killer. That's interesting. I've never heard of that. So it's a slasher film, though.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's there's a certain subgenre of movies, not necessarily horror, but just just intentionally slow, letting you take in the moment. You can hear the footsteps. The sound design is great. So he's walking through this forest. It's almost like you're when you're on the treadmill and they play those little videos.
Yeah,
it's a lot like that.
I'll have to check that out.
But yeah, that was a lot of fun.
It's called The Elephant.
The movie's called In a Violent Nature.
Nature.
And then it's a similar kind of style, as in a slow movie where you're taking the perspective of somebody, minimal dialogue, similar to Elephant. But yeah, and then recently, just a couple weeks ago, I went to go see Companion.
Companion.
That was, I think, my Valentine's Day horror movie. I know we get a lot in the first couple months, and normally that's when you see less popular, or I guess less good, normally horror movies coming out.
Sure, yeah.
Usually that's when studios are pushing things. It's after Oscar season. It's okay, we're not getting our movies in right now, so we're just going to push things out.
And I think we so often associate slasher films and horror films with October and November and those months in that sort of era. That I don't know, it just feels weird to me whenever I go out and see a horror film that's in the summer or in February or whatever. But
that's kind of out of the norm for me too.
I don't know, because when I saw Heart Eyes, the trailer for that, I was like, that is such a strange concept, having a Valentine's Day themed horror movie. But then I think as I started looking into it, I feel like there's a lot more, as you were just kind of talking about, than I might give credit for. Obviously Companion coming out and stuff, but
yeah. On
the note of Heart Eyes, Kyra saw it over the weekend.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts?
I'm sorry. It was just, to me, in my opinion, it was just not that good. Only because, the plot was, it's a killer out there that's hunting down, couples and things like that. But as I got into it, first of all, I don't know. To me, the acting wasn't all that good. The main character, or the protagonist, her name is Olivia Holt. I forgot the character name. Is that quick? You see, it's not memorable. That's the problem, you know? I just personally feel like the acting wasn't really good. It was kind of dry humor. I don't know.
Sure, yeah.
It was some scenes where it was just oh my God, WTF, wow. Okay, that just happened. But overall, it was just it's not really my cup of tea. It was more of a comedy as well. It was a rom-com comedy, so I do appreciate that. I like how they really tie that into it. But the pacing, I just couldn't get into it. I was just kind of slipping through my phone in and out, Great plot twist though.
Was there any scare value in it?
Not really. What I noticed with these modern slasher films, they try to do jump scare a lot.
Yeah, the reliance on the jump scare.
And I just personally feel it doesn't work on us anymore, because I feel we are desensitized, because, we grew up on social media and we scroll through our phone, and they used to do those, childish jump scare videos. So it's it just doesn't hit the same. I don't know. I just wasn't scared,
I think there's also this idea that the jump scare is just kind of it's cheap, you know? It's like you can build up to it, you know, you can do this whole scene where it like culminates in a jump scare or whatever, and it's like, it's gonna get you, you know? It's gonna get you. Like, I'm not pretending like I'm like this hardened person who's never gonna get like jump scared, but
No.
I think it's just there's an argument for the fact that you don't have to rely on like actual horror if you can just jump scare the audience, you know?
Exactly. Now, I would say, I did also watch Smile 2 for the first time over the weekend. I didn't go see it.
That was a big one.
It was a good movie. I like it. Now, that movie, even the first one, that had good jump scares, in my opinion. So, I really like that. But, yeah, Hard Eyes, me personally, it's not really... You just have to watch it, like
yeah. I might go see it. I don't know. After hearing you talk about it, I'm a little reluctant, but
it was just so dumb. It was so dumb. I'm sorry, it's dumb.
Yeah,
it's giving like the movie itself gave like a spoof in a way, but like it didn't spoof anything.
Right.
But yeah, it's just like that type of humor.
There wasn't like a clear mission. with it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Did you feel like the movie had like anything to say? Like I haven't personally seen Hard Eyes. I've seen the reviews and I know people.
I think the main theme of it, from what I got out of it, was like the theme of obsession over like love and stuff like that, and
Sure.
I guess like kinks and stuff like that. Yeah, it's kind of weird. So that's what I got out of it. But when you guys watch it, just let me know what y'all perceive of it.
I will. Maybe at the start of next episode, I'll give my thoughts.
Yeah.
I'll deliver my thoughts. But yeah, the modern horror film. Daniel, I know you were talking about sort of like these like indie things, I guess, if it could be called that, the Canadian one you were talking about.
Oh yeah.
What are your thoughts on the...
Canadians usually make good movies too. I'm sorry, I just have
No,
to...
they do. Yeah, no, 100%. I agree.
Yeah.
I agree. But the modern horror film, the modern blockbuster horror film, let's go with that. What are your thoughts on the state of that today?
I've been so happy. I think over like the past couple of years, it's like you start out like in high school watching like the scary stuff. Your parents don't want you, but you're finding the videos online and stuff, and it's fun to explore and see that, and that coming at the same time in my life, and I think your guys' lives as well, as like this kind of almost like a renaissance with these indie studios that are giving lots of money to horror movies that otherwise don't really play it safe, right? I know in the 2000s we got a lot of bad ones. Like, we don't talk about the 2000s when it comes to horror movies, but now that we're in the later 2010s, we have Neon, we have A24. Like, they have their own signature styles.
Jordan Peele just started a new one too, right?
Oh yeah,
was it Monkey Paw?
Yeah. I cannot wait for that.
I agree. I think.
But yeah.
I mean, I've sort of spoken about how I think it was maybe last episode. It kind of feels like we're heading towards sort of another film
like we're shifting
era or revolution in which we start giving more money and paying more attention to more experimental stuff, sort of how we would have seen like in the French New Wave or whatever. Because I think people are kind of getting fed up with like the big studio stuff. But I think horror is often very much where you want to see that money going and where you want to see that attention going. Because, obviously what horror kind of plays off of is our cultural anxieties, and what we as a collective are kind of afraid of. And I guess what I always like to do when I'm looking at horror films is kind of figure out, where are we now? Because it's really easy to look at like older ones and be like, oh, they were scared about this and they were like saying this. But I feel like it's almost harder to do that now, to like look at a modern film and be like, what is this saying about us? What is this saying that we're afraid of? You know what I'm saying?
Oh yeah. So I'm glad you actually brought that up, because again, looking back on Smile, from what I got from that movie is basically like you have to face your traumas. Honestly, your trauma is like this huge big monster that we don't see on screen. It's like inside of you. So I that's what I got from it. So just want to put that out there.
Yeah, and I agree that Smile, too, did a lot of interesting things. And I like that it was bigger than the first movie. I don't know if you guys got this from it, but I feel like the second Smile movie almost kind of retreaded the same steps that the first movie took.
Sure,
and I kind of want to know from your guys' perspective, like, what kind of new things did it bring to the table?
The difference between the first one and the second one is just that it's just this fear of, like, being watched, in my opinion, because, you know, I don't want to spoil it, you know, for those who haven't seen it, but the main character, you know, she is a recovering, you know, drug addict, and, like, you know, she accidentally murdered someone, and now she's, like, trying to figure out, like, how to move forward with that, but I don't know, it's just, like, the pressure of, like, fame and things like that is keep getting to her, and she keep getting, like, these interesting, like, mysterious texts and things like that. I'm, like, literally skipping over some things on purpose, so don't mind me, but, like, yeah, that's just how I take of, like, the new things, you know, versus the first one. It was just more of, you know, fighting a monster within yourself, so, yeah.
Yeah.
That's always the challenge, I feel, not just with horror films, with any film, is taking a sequel and not only making it something different, but expanding on what you were saying in the first one.
Yeah.
You know, not making it completely different
Like,
from those original themes.
Basically, like, going a little bit more deeper into it, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I think that should be the goal. Like, I always...
Sorry, I'm laughing.
I like to think, I mean, and we were going to get to it, but Alien, right? Like, that first Alien movie... there's all this stuff about what they're saying about, like, IVF, you know, with the whole sterilization and the sort of the fear of, like, rape and stuff against women, and kind of putting that fear on men. And then the second film sort of gets more into, like, motherhood, you know, so still kind of, like, going off those things of, you know, those themes. And the third one is this, like, sort of, like, long metaphor of like abortion, and then the fourth one is sort of also goes based off those themes. But, you know, it's kind of, I think Alien is one of those franchises where, as a horror film, did a great job of, like, keeping with the times and making sure, like, we're still, like, questioning certain norms that are in existence, because obviously Alien's a very long-running franchise, and I think it's just done a great job at, like, with each year that it's made, it's like it's never the same thing, and that's why it's one of my favorite franchises, like, ever.
Why is it? Like, why specifically?
Just for that reason. Like, it's just so, like, I love what it says. I love what it says about society at the time. I think it's one of those things where, especially, like, that new one, I mean, with anytime there's a new movie that's part of, like, an old franchise or a reboot or whatever, you're going to get people saying, like, oh, it's just, like, a cash grab or whatever. But, like, I thought that new one did a great job at sort of rehashing all the old themes we saw in those older movies, and kind of presenting them through a new lens to a new audience, while just, like, kind of paying homage to, like, all those old ones. And that's why I love that one. But I'm curious, I don't know, what do you guys think? How do you think Alien holds up, like those older Aliens? How do you think that holds up in the modern day?
So the first movie, absolutely incredible.
Sure.
And I've seen the second movie so many times, and it was very. I remember it being very similar watching the Terminator movies and feeling like
Love the Terminator movies.
There's this. So I'm gonna go watch that, obviously.
100%, yeah.
Okay.
But yeah, you get that shift from, like, horror to action.
100%.
Oh yeah.
Then to thriller, because
Yeah.
David Fincher came along, and, you know, he's obviously much more of a thriller guy, but yeah.
Exactly. Yeah, and I haven't seen the third one, the fourth one, but I have seen Prometheus. Again, I feel like when I at least saw, like, the trailers, the box art, when I heard, you know, Alien 3, Alien 4, I saw, like, it kind of skew, like, kind of settling into, like, a middle zone.
Yeah.
And what I really liked is when they really switched things up, and so, you know, that part of that is on me. I haven't given them a chance, and I definitely need to go ahead and watch them. But when
Yeah,
they
100%.
when they switched things up with Prometheus, I thought it was awesome. And when they also then went back to their roots, but at the same time, you could still tell, like, the love was there from, like, the original with, like, the practical effects. And
Are you talking about Prometheus or Covenant?
I'm talking about. I mean, Prometheus was, like, something completely new. It didn't even look like an alien movie. And then you get back to, I'm talking about Romulus,
right.
that we got last year. Yeah, again, like, practical effects. You got like different, and the character homages. I know they brought back like a character who died, like, whose actor died, and, like, CGI. And
it was Ash.
Yeah.
I think. But it wasn't Ash. It was, like, a different kind of... It was weird, but yeah.
Yeah, they didn't need to do that. But, like, the fact that they used similar prosthetics for the aliens, and then went ahead and threw in new things to, like, shake up stuff for the audience. It's been a year. Are we allowed to talk about the weird baby creature?
Oh yeah, and that and I think what people tend to forget is that
Can we show it on screen, like the image?
the hybrid. And I think what people, so that's a great example. Like that was a great new thing, but it was another thing that that was an homage to the fourth movie, or in my mind, it was an homage to the fourth movie because I mean, if you haven't seen the fourth movie, there's a sort of a similar kind of thing where Ripley has I think it's Ripley. Ripley has like a child, and it's like half alien, half human, and they have to kill it, and it's like this whole thing. But yeah, I just love that franchise's ability to evolve and just like keep with it, but also like change. And like, I mean, you brought up Prometheus, and he added like this whole nother like level of like philosophy to it, to like what we consider a horror franchise, or like you said, action, or whatever you want to call it. But definitely did a great job at balancing that. And one thing I tried to look for, because I mean, obviously what we think about when we think of, not obviously, but when we think about old horror in the 1900s or late 1900s, the final girl trope is definitely one of those things that comes up, and there's a lot of debate surrounding if like Ripley from Alien is actually like part of that trope. But in that new movie, I was trying to see like how they handled that theme, you know, because there was a female lead in that movie, and I thought they did it pretty good. You know, I thought they sort of not only subverted the expectations of the audience, but like I've been saying, kind of paid homage to those original movies.
Mm-hmm. And then I guess I'm kind of curious on your perspective of this, but like when it comes to a final girl, like what makes her the final girl besides the fact that she's just the last one alive?
In my opinion, it's the fact that she's able to carry herself throughout the movie. Like, she's really self-aware, you feels me? Like, she know what to do, what not to do. I mean, sure, she may have like a few knockbacks, you know. She may have got caught sometimes, but it's just her ability to be like resilient, in my opinion. So yeah.
So you see it as an empowering thing?
Oh yeah, most definitely.
Because if you guys don't know, the final girl is a trope. It's a trope in a movie, typically slashers, where the final person surviving is a woman who throughout the course of the movie typically was able to survive because she was able to sort of be abstinent from everything. Yeah. Everything we, I guess, consider fun. I don't know, like drugs, sex, alcohol, and that's what ultimately leads to their survival. And this is, so Clover, the Carol J. Clover, she kind of identified this and talked about how sort of often that victory is ambiguous. Clover writes that the fact that the final girl is alive at the end does not make her sort of victorious, and that it's always going to be sort of this ambiguous ending. So it's not, in her mind, it wasn't an empowering thing. And for Ripley specifically, this is a quote directly from the book Men, Women, and Chainsaws, where she sort of coined this term. She writes, "To applaud the final girl as a feminist development, as some reviews of Aliens have done with Ripley, is, in light of her figurative meaning, a particularly grotesque expression of wishful thinking." Clover's argument with this quote is that we shouldn't really view Ripley as like this, final girl,
right.
or we should view her as this final girl, and that it's technically she's not like this like huge feminist development as some people like tend to think of her. But there are arguments for the opposite. There's one analysis that calls her a reassuring face of womanhood. And yeah, so that's honestly, you asked earlier why I'm so into the Alien series. It's because I like looking at that. I love that debate of like whether or not Ripley is this like final girl, if she's like an actual feminine. And I mean, when we think about it, Ripley is a character written by a man, and then put to screen by a man. And I don't think there's ever been an Alien film not directed by a man. So it's really interesting to have like this character who we often view as like this like great feminist development, not only told by men, right, but different men, right? Because it was Ridley Scott, James Cameron, and then David Fincher, and like seeing how those stories sort of develop over time is really interesting to me, and I love the dialogue that surrounds it.
Well, to me, I mean, I think it's a feminist move, like sure, to me, it's empowering. So I don't understand why like people go with the opposite of it. I mean, I just don't quite understand it.
I think the idea is that it's saying like she's surviving in spite of her femininity, I
see.
think that's sort of the argument people go with Ripley is when they're like, oh no, she's not this final girl because she it subverts those expectations because Ripley in the first Alien movie, she doesn't win by acting like a man. She wins by embracing feminist traits. Like when they first bring the alien on board, she's the one being like, guys, maybe we shouldn't bring the weird alien on board without like the proper like protocols and stuff.
You know, that reminds me of like Alien vs. Predator when what was her name? Senna Layton. Have you seen it?
I have not seen that yet. I probably should, but every time I hear about it, it's just like in the worst possible tone. Like everyone's just like, this movie sucks.
I mean, it was all right. I mean, but yeah, that just reminded me of her. That now that you said that, like, I mean, that's why I said like so empowering because they know what they're doing. Like, if you listen to them, you wouldn't be in that situation in the first place. If you get what I'm saying,
Yeah.
So yeah.
And that's definitely the argument with Ripley is like it's like, well, does she represent this or not? I don't know. Me personally, I don't know. I think there's a lot of times where I'm like, yeah, she does, and then I read some analysis, and I'm like, okay, maybe not.
I see.
But I think by the third movie, she definitely has a lot more agency than she did in the first two. And that's actually the first movie where they kind of let her have like a sexual relationship with another character, and it doesn't like hinder her ability to like be the hero, or like do what's right, or win the day or whatever.
Because it shouldn't, because that shouldn't matter. But
exactly.
that's a different. That's a different conversation for another day. So,
But I think a lot of those early like the slasher movies with teens, like Scream, Friday the 13th. When we talk about culture anxieties, it's definitely playing on that idea of like drugs, alcohol, sex is all like running rampant with like this age group. So what if we took the people who are so into this stuff and we just like killed them, and we had a slasher come in and kill them? And I think that's a really interesting way of looking at that kind of thing.
Oh yeah.
I think you're more the person to kind of talk about this, but I know I've seen things about when these monsters for Alien were being designed. They were often intentionally phallic to kind of evoke that like the abject reaction in the audience.
Yeah, and this is great. I actually love that you mentioned that. Yeah, the alien head is like meant to be phallic, and then the eggs are also meant to resemble like sexual organs. And actually, if you look at the original concept art, because you know how it opens, if you guys don't know we can get a photo for this maybe, but it almost like resembles a cross. You know how the egg opens? Originally, it wasn't like that. It was just like one. It would do this,
and it just,
and it was even more resemblance. It resembled even more like sexual organs. But yeah, that was another, because the themes in that original movie, again, when we talk about cultural anxieties, it was sort of pitting this like sterileness, against like raw kind of like natural. I mean, this is talking about birth, but it would take like, because people were scared of like IVF and stuff, so they were taking like this like sterileness and contrasting it with like this like evil kind of like grossness of like the natural process. And in that movie, you get a lot of like red against white. The scene where the alien initially like bursts out of his chest. They're in that very white room, and it's kind of like stained with red. To kind of show that contrast.
And do you think it worked to Alien Romulus's benefit to kind of have like that in your face kind of ending with like this baby creature?
Yeah, 100%. When we talk about jump scares, actually, this is kind of a side tangent, but there's that one jump scare at the end of Romulus. I don't know if you know what I'm talking about. It's
is it when she's climbing back into the ship?
Yeah, but it just jumps down, and that got me because I thought the director, was it Fade Alvarez, did such a great job the whole movie of like instilling genuine fear without the use of jump scares. And then there was just that one shot that just made me like jump back and yeah. What was your original question?
You deserve that. No, I was asking about just generally like when it comes to like kind of the abject and like sexual themes, how at least in my opinion, when they brought it around to like the latest movie, they were very, very direct with it, right? I mean, having...
Well, I'm curious, what did you make of the alien baby? Because I know there's like... Yeah, what did you make of that? Because for a while, I think I've struggled to like actually like figure out what I think that means, but I'm curious to hear what you think.
It felt like just like showing kind of like almost like the fear of, I guess, when it like comes to like substance abuse, or like it could even be like just like alcohol use, right? While being pregnant, right? That can, I at least that's the parallel that I drew when I was watching it.
Sure, yeah. No, I like that. I hadn't thought of it that way. Because I don't know. I was so happy.
I feel so bad because I didn't see the final one.
Oh,
so.
you gotta get on that. It's really good. No, but I was just so happy that they almost like paid an homage to the fourth one, because I feel like people forget about that. But yeah, I never really thought about it that way. That's interesting, because in the fourth one, I think it's more closely related to like the themes in the third one about like abortion and stuff than it is to something like that. But yeah, that's interesting.
And there could have definitely, I think it was definitely part of like themes of like abortion. Sure. I mean, her just like saying like, get it out of me, get it out of me.
Yeah, 100%. And yeah, because I mean, in the third movie, it's like, it's really apparent. Like she has an alien in her chest, or in her like, sort of like in her the entire time. And then in the end, she's like sort of put with this decision of either killing herself and killing the baby with her, or sort of handing it over to these scientists for experimentation, kind of showing that like you're never fully, those are your options, like yeah, I'll leave it there. But yeah. Anyway, Romulus was amazing.
Franchise, huh? Such a classic franchise, huh?
Yeah, 100%. That and Terminator will always be I call them, I think I've said this before, I call Terminator a boy movie.
Yeah.
Which, like, I don't know if I should be calling it that, because I don't think, I kind of reject the idea that you should have, like, shame in doing anything or, like, watching anything, like,
I mean, we have chick flicks, so what's the difference?
Yeah, I guess. But Terminator's so good. And that's not horror. That'll be a conversation for another day, Terminator.
I can always talk more about Companion as well. I feel like it has a lot of these themes that Alien did, as well as like a lot of, again, recent movies. I really like that we've been kind of seeing like a greater resurgence in like movies that do focus on women's issues.
Oh yeah.
And kind of communicating that experience to like a more general audience.
Yeah.
That includes men. That's like, hey, this is what it's like, out there.
To do X, Y, yeah.
Yeah, and I know Companion did an excellent job at this, and this will be a spoiler for Companion. I don't know if you guys care. I don't know if the audience cares, but
it's quite all right.
Now.
Yeah, it's cool.
The movie is presented in the description as a slasher, and it's this thriller where it's initially set up that this woman is going to end up killing her husband. So it's like, okay, you got me hooked there.
Yeah.
She goes to the lake house, right, with her husband after recollecting how she met him, right? This romantic, like, rom-com-esque scene where, he drops the oranges, she picks him up, and she describes in visceral detail, like, the connection you make with somebody.
You have a great plot twist in there, huh? I love plot twists. I don't know.
No, this is a good one, and it comes early, and you guys will still be able to enjoy this movie, but it's this wonderful moment, right? And you see it in like the Lifetime movies, and hopefully you felt it before, right? That fire you have inside of yourself, like when you feel love,
sure,
and make that connection. And so from there it goes off into like this like flash forward in time. She's going with him to meet some friends. It's like it's pretty much a horror movie setup, right?
Yeah.
Going to a secluded lake house. You don't have cell phone service. There's a rich guy there who's kind of creepy, and everyone is actually just acting very off to this woman, but like you almost discredit it or just say, no, this is just showing how like she would actually be treated, because it is how she would probably, like a woman would probably be treated, because she walks in the door and people aren't really like paying attention to her, really aren't like giving her any respect or like authority. It's just like, oh, hey, anyways, boyfriend. And you get to this point where you're almost getting. At least I was personally like, it was frustrating seeing her treated like this and kind of almost like being like an extra in a movie that like where the other characters weren't really like too interesting either. And again, it just fell off to the point where it's eventually revealed that she's a robot. She's an android. This entire time, she's almost like a sex bot, pretty much. And this is set in the near future where they have, self-driving cars. And then in this case, pretty much these robots that are programmed to be like a companion robot. And that's the reason why people weren't treating her well. And like this, and like the rest of the movie it's a very thinly veiled metaphor for abusive relationships.
That's so great.
And yeah, it worked. It worked very well.
Like, because you're talking about like letting people like sort of see like things they might not have like thought of before, like in relation to women and stuff. And I think horror is such a great way of showing that, because it's letting people like, it's kind of forcing people to be afraid of something they wouldn't normally be afraid of. Yeah. And I think that's what you're saying this did, and I think that's what Alien did back in the day. It made men have fears of things that they just never have had to think of, and I love that. It's definitely like one of the great things that comes from the horror genre. Yeah, and it was very similar, and it is made by the same creators that did Barbarian, which I know has gotten quite a bit of attention over the past couple of years. And it was the same thing for Barbarian, right? You're like, she shouldn't trust Bill Skarsgård, right? That's your instinct as the audience member. Yeah. And the reality was that he was just acting like how an average man might act in that situation.
Yeah, and that's the horror of not even just women, but just like anybody life every day. Like, you just have to really, really practice your intuition and your gut feeling, Just wanted to put that out there.
Yeah. No, 100%.
Listen, life imitates art. Or the other way around, you get what I'm saying.
Both. Works either way.
Yeah.
Yeah, but it makes it for an excellent horror experience. And like that movie Barbarian, it just kept you guessing for the rest of it. Oh, yeah. Right? And I was thinking of the scene where she walks down to the basement and like comes back up, and then Bill Skarsgård goes right down. He's like, I can't leave until I check it. Like that's a man thing to do.
Yes, no, literally, yes. Oh my God, that whole movie, I was just like, girl, oh my gosh, she stressed me out so bad. Like, I just couldn't. I just couldn't.
It's one of those, 100%.
Yeah. Oh my gosh.
So, Companion, Barbarian, maybe not Hard Eyes, and In a Violent Nature. Check them out, guys.
Yeah. I mean, no. Check out Hard Eyes.
Check out Hard Eyes.
Just
make your own opinion. That's the great thing about film. Is
I just don't like it. I don't like it, but yeah, y'all should watch it. Just watch it, just for fun.
100%. Yeah. Well, this has been Reeling It In with our guest Daniel. Yeah. I'm Jack Williams.
I'm Kyra Mabone.
Remember, if you have a movie that you think we should know about, if you have a review or something you think we should know about, and you want us to talk about it on this show, email me at jack.williams@statenews.com, and we will do a little segment where we talk about it.
Enjoy your popcorn.
Until next time.